district and talk to different groups, but I don't usually get to take a lot of questions because they put us in situations where we're talking most of the time, giving information. So today, I'm going to talk just a little bit and then ask if you have questions and really get a sense of what you're thinking. I have been in the Senate for the past 2 years. I'm the chairman of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. I'm the vice chairman of Transportation. I have 5 other committees: Environmental Affairs, Children's, Families, and Persons with Disabilities, Elder Affairs, Public Health, and now State Administration. So I'm getting used to saying all that. And I have 2 district offices. One's in Leominster and one's in Gardner. So we make sure that the constituents don't really have to call Boston and don't feel that they have to come to Boston to see us, because it's really important for me to have that connection with my constituents on a daily basis. I know that it's a hassle for me to get to Boston, so I can only imagine for people that don't go there what it's like. One of the major things is I was a state representative for 4 years for Leominster. I was heavily criticized, and former Mayor Mylott will tell you, for being the regional candidate. I never thought within my own district, supposedly. I thought too regionally, and I thought that whatever happened in Pittsburgh affected Leominster and vice versa. So I tend to think in terms of regional. I think that it's important that we sort of blur these boundaries a little bit and get to the heart of the issue, which is the people of Massachusetts. Technically, I represent 150,000 people, but I also represent 6 million people in Massachusetts when it comes down to my committee assignments. So I balance both of those. And I think I've done a pretty good job, considering the fact that we have seen the worst fiscal crisis we've ever seen in the 15 years I've been on Beacon Hill. We've cut 77 line items out of the budget. We now are dealing with the gaming issue, which some people are pro-gaming, some people are anti-gaming for whatever reason. We're dealing with a lot of situations where people are not receiving the mental health care that they need, the health care that they need, the elder services that they're looking for. And it's really difficult, because every time my colleagues and I go out to talk about the budget, we're cutting money. And we're cutting money that's affecting families. So, you know, it takes a lot for me to think about taxes. There's no indication that we're going to deal with taxes this season, in this session, because we think it's really important that people realize that we're trying to do more with less. Today, what happened was, in the Senate, one of the senators shut down business, and that forced us to put on hold the debt restructuring bill, which is going to cost the state of Massachusetts $300 million. So on top of the money coming from the feds that we didn't get, the $600 million, if we don't do this bill by Thursday, the governor's going to cut another $300 million from the budget, which is going to be local aid and schools and human services. So I take to heart the fact that human services is cut a lot of times, because there are people who just can't get a grasp on what they need, and they just need some therapy, or they need to be in a program or a substance abuse program. And that's really what I've been working on for the past 2 years as the committee chairman of mental health and substance abuse. A lot of people have criticized some of the votes I've taken, the immigration stuff that we did in the budget. People were saying it's too harsh. They want to make sure that, you know, immigrants are getting what they need. There's also the alcohol tax that I took the vote on to support. People say because we're the border state, everyone's going to New Hampshire. Unfortunately, that's not true. I mean, people are not driving to New Hampshire because they actually increased their gas tax. So they may not have a sales tax, but their property taxes and their gas taxes are going up. And we're really the ones that have to look at you know, the cost benefits and really what the unintended consequences are. So every piece of the money that comes from the alcohol tax goes back into substance abuse. And that's something I think is really important, because if you open your paper today, usually you'll hear about a suicide, you'll hear about a homicide, people's families are dying, people don't know what to do when they've lost their jobs, and they just can't handle it. And so there's really no outsource for them. There's really no outreach for them. I can explain to you a lot of the projects that we've done throughout the district. It's a little cumbersome, so I can certainly, at this point, take some questions, and then we can talk about that if you want, or if there are other issues. So if anyone has questions, and I can repeat them, so if you can't hear anybody.
Yes.
Yes.
I'd rather have it on the microphone.
Or if I just stand up, would that help?
Okay.
Many times politicians, especially Democrats, have a sense that Tea Party members are either activists or anarchists. Could you tell me how you view the Tea Party and how you view what our mission as Tea Party members are towards the political process?
Well, I think it's different. The question was, how do I view the Tea Party members? And I think there's a couple different things to that. One, obviously, nationwide, we've seen that there've been extremists, but there are extremists in every party, whether they're Democratic, whether they're Republican, or whether they're Tea Party members. So you can't judge every group by a few people. I think the Tea Party certainly has their set of values, just like every other party does, and that's something that we need to look at as elected officials. I don't necessarily call myself a politician because politics is the game we play. Elected officials is being accountable to the people that represent me. So I think that while you have core values, I think it's new, and people are really concerned about that. And I know that I've been certainly attacked by some of them. They're not even from my district. They're from other parts of the district, but because there's a D after my name, they assume I'm going to tax and spend, when in reality I'm kind of a cheap Democrat, to be honest with you. So I think that it's new and that we're getting used to it on Beacon Hill, but I don't think that there's necessarily one form of thinking when it comes to the Tea Party activists.
I have a general question.
Sure.
In New Hampshire, since you mentioned New Hampshire, they have a legislature that meets part-time, gets paid $100 a year, and basically disbands, but their state manages to run. How is it that Massachusetts needs a full-time legislature in the larger budget? And I mean, granted, we're a larger state, and New Hampshire doesn't. How do you think they manage to run? What are we doing wrong, or what are they doing right? The
question is why New Hampshire has a part-time legislature and Massachusetts doesn't. There's a lot of states in the United States that have part-time legislatures. There are others that have full-time legislatures. Massachusetts, I can tell you, we're consistently working, whether it's supplemental budgets to get the additional funding to the line items and the agencies that protect people, or it's our constituent services. The most ironic part about my job is that people elect me to go to Boston, but they would rather see me in the district. They would rather see me at the local groups. They would rather see me at someone's birthday party or talking about what's going on rather than being in Boston for 12 hours a day. So I don't think New Hampshire is better or Massachusetts is worse. I think we run our operation differently. We have different sessions. The legislature, as Representative Benson will tell you also, we get out at midnight on July 31st, which means that essentially anything that's controversial stops July 31st at midnight. Well, that's not good for some of the districts, because I have 11 cities and towns, some of which have very controversial issues that we have got to get done up against a time frame. And if we can't get that done before July 31st, we've got to wait until next year. So I think it's really important to see the difference. I mean, they obviously don't deal with the sales tax. They increase their gas taxes, they increase the property taxes, they increase all the other taxes that they have, and we don't. And so we're constantly working to try to benefit the citizens of Massachusetts. When you say the word politics, it tends to be a dirty word. People think of the political games you play, they think of campaigning, they think of some of the rhetoric and some of the information that's given during a campaign. But I will tell you just one thing. Whomever is elected to any of these seats that we have has the same tools that we have right now.